Some problems are so large that they will have to encourage their students to confide in their parents or to help them through the problems. So I would not put it as a clear line, and each case has to be judged on its own. The other point is that our teachers are trained up to a level in terms of being able to deliver the sexuality education program. They are teachers, they are not specially trained professionals for this task. So we have the help of trained personnel who are, for example, counselors or allied educators, as well as these external agencies. What we will encourage the students to do is to approach their parents or avail themselves of these resources. And this is how we hope that through this framework, some of the needs can be addressed. We'll be able to solve all problems, we'll be able to mitigate them, but we don't seek to replace parents, and we cannot replace parents. It's still their responsibility.
How will a teacher respond to a student who comes out and says he's homosexual, he or she is homosexual?
Well, the teacher may not be trained to handle that situation. And I think if the teacher feels inadequate, I don't think we should push to say and insist that the teacher is able to solve that query or to be able to answer that. And I think the guidelines to teachers would be that there will be other resources available, either through counselors or these external agencies that the parent and that student can refer to. We have not said that our sexuality education will be able to comprehensively address all issues on sexuality education. As I've said very clearly, our main focus is on preventing sexually transmitted infections and teenage pregnancies. Issues related to homosexuality is a very small component and is not the main focus of our programs. Let me emphasize that. What we teach about homosexuality, we define what it is, that it's illegal in Singapore, but the government has said that homosexuals in private have their personal space, but that is not the main focus of our sexuality education programs. Our main purpose is really to reduce the numbers of teenage pregnancies, to reduce the proportion of teens who come down with sexually transmitted diseases, to help them build healthy relationships that lead to a heterosexual married family. That's the main focus.
Why did it take some time and a saga like Aware to actually bring in these measures such as auditing the past procedures? Could you share with us a little bit?
Well, in general, when we reviewed how it was conducted in the schools, we did a thorough investigation, going down to the schools, talking to the teachers, talking to students, looking at external vendors, and our conclusion was, in general, the guidelines were adhered to. There were not serious deviations from that. But in response to this situation, we wanted to give added assurance to parents and the community that so we've instituted these new guidelines. We think that it will help provide assurance and also strengthen the system.
So just now, you mentioned that for the engaging of the vendors, there will be this rigorous vetting of content and the resources used. And you had also mentioned the trust element. Maybe you can elaborate on that?
In the use of external vendors, we welcome their participation because they do complement our programs. Our teachers teach the main program, but external agencies do have core expertise that make this program more effective in terms of achieving our goals of our sexuality education program. Now we've made very clear what we teach in our sexuality education program. We've made it very clear what we mean, what are the values underpinning this program. External agencies who want to participate must share those values, must agree that those are the same values that they have, and will adhere to the general framework of what is being taught. There might be very well organizations who feel that they don't agree with this framework or the approach that MOE is taking. And for these external agencies, I would advise that a more productive way is to not to be involved with us in MOE, but to submit their views to the steering committee which I've appointed, which will consist of professionals, so that the professionals can weigh the merits of their argument. If indeed the steering committee feels that there's merit and that there's some improvements, they can change the program. Or if the committee feels, well, no, this is what we have in our framework is the right way, then they can explain to them why we will continue the way we're doing what we've decided. It's not productive for them to be engaged in our programs and either teach different values or teach different things that we've agreed on. The reason is that access to our students in our schools is privileged access. And if parents cannot trust what you teach in schools or feel that you have a negative influence on their children or teach them values which run contrary to what your framework says, then they cannot trust you, then the program cannot be effective. The third point, or more important point, is that the schools, our schools and educational institutions, cannot become proxy battlegrounds for groups with contending ideologies. What we must stringently and strictly avoid is allowing our schools to go the way in some other countries, for example in the United States, where different groups with different views try to square off and try to settle their arguments in schools. If we allow this to happen, our schools and education system will be casualties and be worse off. We have to ensure that we keep our schools and educational institutions as shared space, and that our children learn best in an environment which is away from this emotional upheaval, this rhetoric, that they can be objective, that they can hear views and reflect on them and make their own decisions. I think that's the best way for them to learn. So I think that's a more important point, that our schools must maintain their shared space and that we welcome the help of external agencies to deliver the holistic education, but they must not use our schools to further their own agenda. I think that has to be the understanding.
I'm sorry, we have time for one more question.
Minister, can I just clarify with regards to AWARE? I know it's quite sensitive, but can you clarify, does MOE find the content of AWARE's program objectionable, or is it a trust issue that makes them not so suitable?
I would frame my remarks for all external providers, external vendors. MOE will not be able to use external vendors unless the public can trust that these external vendors teach what has been agreed in the framework and subscribe to the values of our framework. It's just not effective. I mean, parents will have to trust that the external vendors do it within the understanding of the framework, because they are, if not, they have the option to opt out. But if they don't opt out, the assumption is that, well, I'm allowing my children to receive this education with what has been agreed upon. So external vendors who don't share this, I think it's not productive for them to be involved. And if we feel that parents cannot trust these external vendors, we will not be able to use them.
Is then AWARE in a position of trust at this point in time?
We will not be able to use AWARE for these reasons until they have gained the trust of the public for their sexuality programs. Okay.
Thank you, Minister.